Yungblud? Is that
It is. How are you, Zane, bro?
Good to see you, bro. How are you?
I'm alright, man. Bit odd, innit? Bit strange, bit weird.
You know what, though? In and amongst all of the strangeness of it, the unprecedented surreality of this whole scenario, you've adapted really well, man. You know, you're inspiring people. You're out there doing the Yungblud show. You put in music out. You're adapting and pivoting and moving thoughtfully, man. Respect.
Thank you, sir. I mean, that's just kind of like all we can do. Do you know what I mean? I just want to make people feel connected still and still like happy and like less scared and less alone. Because like I'm pretty weirded out. Do you know what I mean?
Man? How are you? How are you, really?
I'm all right, man. As I say, like it's been so amazing to kind of like see the reaction of like the Yungblud show and everything like that because I'm just putting all my like kind of fear and my stress and kind of the world being so topsy-turvy into kind of creating things just to make people feel better about the time. You know what I mean? So I'm all right, man. I'm all right. How are you?
You know, we're just trying to find a balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just out here trying to find a balance indoors, doing as we're told, hunkering down, contributing and helping where we can, trying to make a difference where we can, but ultimately trying to just find a balance and make the most of this time as a family.
Completely.
And just listen to ourselves and to each other and just trying to find mind, body, and spirit into a good place, you know?
It's a bit interesting, isn't it? You know what I mean? I was literally thinking the other day, it's like, it's almost like Mother Earth, if you like, without sounding too hippie, kind of slaps us across the head a bit and just saying, like, as a race, humans have been neglecting humanity for so long and kind of neglecting the planet and neglecting the kind of the way we treat it so much. I think it's like, it's kind of Mother Earth just going, listen, reconnect and reset, and hopefully after all this, like, kind of, we get over this. We start taking things a lot more seriously in terms of like loving each other and stuff and loving the planet.
Go into a little more detail before we dive into this playlist. What is weird about it?
I wrote this song the end of last year, and it had the weirdest. I just had weird, just going through my brain all the time. I was like, everything's weird, like weird. It just kept going through my head, and it was about the weirdest year of my life. It's kind of a coming of age record, and that doesn't mean like growing up, because you can come of age at like 84. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can figure out who you are at any time in your life because it hits you, and then you become someone else, and you keep figuring that out till, I know it sounds dark, till the lights go out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had the weirdest 18 months of my life. Like, I nearly lost my mom in a car accident. I fell in love. I felt heartbreak. We got really big really quickly, and we were like, what? And I felt like I was walking down the pavement, and everything underneath me was like continually shape-shifting, and I was trying to like not fall down the cracks. And I remember we played Brixton Academy, and just before that I was touring. I was really like anxious all the time, and I couldn't figure out why, because we were playing like incredible shows and we were going all over the world, and we were like, wow, we're like really lucky to do this. Then Brixton Academy came, and like 2 years before, like my guitar player and my drummer, we were in the tiniest shoebox, a 3-bedroom flat, 3 of us in a 2-bedroom flat, looking at like Kasabian play Brixton Academy and going like, if we get there, it'll all be fine, it'll all be all right. And then after the show, I was in a hotel room, and I was sat there, and I was just like, this has been the weirdest, craziest, beautiful, topsy-turvy, twist and turn 18 months of my life, but I think it's all going to be all right. And this kind of euphoria inside me had me like open up the pen, and I couldn't put it down. After the tour, I went to my granddad retired in Spain. And after the tour, I was like, I'm going to go stay with my granddad. And I was like, can I build a studio in your basement? And my granddad's like he's like 70 years old musician. I think took too much acid in the 70s. You know what I mean? So he's like crazy and I built a studio in his basement, and I wrote the song, sat on his roof, and I recorded it with my producer in his basement. Which was kind of sick.
Home with Yungblud right now. Where is home, bro?
We are literally stuck in Venice in an Airbnb because we were finishing the record out here, and then we can't get back to London because of everything that's going on. So we're stuck in Venice by the water on the west side with in an Airbnb.
I know you're homesick, and I know now more than ever you want to be closer to your family, but there's worse parts of the world you could be in than down west.
Absolutely.
Los Angeles, you know what I mean?
That's what we were saying. That's why we stayed here. So we were just like, we may as well be in the sunshine instead of going back to the rain to sit inside. You know what I mean?
And yet we start this playlist, this journey through how you're feeling in music with the consummate rainy day band. who somehow brought a ray of sunshine through the clouds, and yet Robert Smith, man, no one walked the line between misery and joy like Robert Smith. No one.
Absolutely not, man. I always see memes of like how The Cure sounds. It's like a sunshine, and how what the lyrics mean, and it's like Voldemort as a baby or something. You know what I mean?
I know. I mean, The Cure are just one of those bands that once you fall in love with them, they become an obsession. What's your Cure story?
I remember my dad and my granddad used to play them a lot in the house because they loved Britpop and they loved like new wave and they loved all that stuff. So I grew up on like Oasis, Stone Roses, Depeche Mode, Susie Sue, The Cure.
You got lucky.
Dude, it was weird, man. It was kind of like, there's such like a pride to be British kind of alternative thing. My dad ran a guitar shop when I was younger, so he would always, every time I'd finish school and go work in a guitar shop when I was like 13, they'd always have these on. But it wasn't until I saw Robert Smith was I fell in love with him. He had just this androgyny about him, and like me, in my head, I would always be attracted to girls' clothing and makeup in Doncaster, Northern England, which is rainy and industrial and dark and working, and he just wore it so flawlessly, and he just kind of shined when I first saw him, and I was like, if he can do that, then so can I. So I dived into it, and I got past like the normal songs, and I got into like Disintegration album and found like songs like A Forest and stuff, and I was just like, this is capturing everything I feel. You are saying everything I'm thinking, and you've never even met me.
17 Seconds is one of the most amazing, stark, heavy, industrial electronic record ever made. And I remember just the sound of that record and just the way the guitars ring out over those drum machines, and just like, it's just so stark and crazy. And the cover, it looks like Revenant Country, dark winter forest, no leaves, blurred, you know, just
dude,
black
completely.
and white image, just crazy.
I just remember seeing his black eyes, his dark, blacked out eyes, and his massive hair, and just being like, whoa, that's just crazy.
Really fun, really interesting 60 minutes at home with Yungblud. You know, in the last 18 months, gone from 0 to 100 real quick, real fucking quick. Lots of process, but right now we're here telling stories through music. We've done a few of these now, and Kevin Parker has shown up probably more than any other artist on other artists' playlists.
He reminds me like of like the Jeff Lynne of our time. Or something crazy like that. He's like an orchestrator for modern sounds.
All the things that I kind of used to think were corny about modern Pink Floyd, he's made cool.
Absolutely, like, and I remember literally just before the quarantine hit, we went to see him at the Forum in LA.
That was like the last show. That was like the last. If we don't get back to concerts, that might be the last show ever in Los Angeles.
And you know what? I was fine with it because I was there, and I was like, every visual, connected to every beat, and he's that caliber of musician. Like Jeff Lynne, David Gilmour, like these brains of magnificence.
The shame, the guilt, the up for 3 days, the inability to be able to process the good times from the bad times, all wrapped up into a pop star can only be able. It can only be The Weeknd. No one has mass-produced guilt and shame like he has.
Dude, it's crazy, man, especially with this record. It's just one of those songs that you put on when you're just down. And you're like, oh, it's all right. I'm all right now. It's like I wake up, I've got a knot in my stomach. I don't know why. I can't get rid of it. And then you just turn the shower on, open your curtains, put that on. It's like, you know, it's going to be all right.
Had that knot in your stomach? Have you always had that as long as you can remember?
To be honest, as I say, I didn't really address it till I was about 15, I think. I moved down to London.
That's young too. That's young. 15 is young. Even these fast-moving times where the youth are exposed to information in life quicker than ever before. 15 to move out and go to London is like, that's a big step.
Dude, yeah, it was crazy. I was like, it was a week before my 16th birthday. So it was like the start of August, and we went down for the summer. I went down to London because the North was amazing. I loved it for my friends, but it never fulfilled me artistically. Where I was from was like, oh, if you're a musician, you're either going to get beaten down all your life to get a proper job or kind of go and work in a guitar shop. And I've been in a guitar shop since I was 13. So I was like, I just need to go down. And my mum and dad were really supportive. And I remember I moved into this, like, because I couldn't afford much. I was like, it cost me 70 quid a week, £70 a week to live in this shared house with this lady called Marge. And Marge is a girl, man. She used to make these lasagnas. She made like 4 lasagnas a week. And I was skint, so I was just like, she was like, do you want some lasagna? I was like, yes, I will eat all the lasagna for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so I can spend my money.
Dude, I'm like Garfield. I'll have a lasagna now for breakfast.
Yeah, legitimately. And I lived with my best friend James, and we are completely polar opposites. And I kind of spoke to him about this knot and this darkness I was feeling. It's like, dude, you probably got anxiety or depression. Yeah. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And he just said to me, I remember him being like, it's when everything is great, but you're sad and you don't know why. And I was like, that's
pretty well put. It's pretty well put.
I remember that being like a big moment in my life, you know?
You know, one of the first artists that ever spoke to me when I was going through that realization that there was something inside that I couldn't quite understand that made me feel ways that were contrary to how I should feel at the time was Kurt. And when Kurt Cobain would write those songs, it was more than just writing these timeless songs. It's the way he would sing these songs.
Yeah.
It's what he was willing to put himself through to get it out of him, to share it with us. And it was just, this trade was just so visceral.
Every time I put on Nirvana, I feel like the person inside my body who's just punching around.
Yeah.
I allow that person to come out of my mouth and run around the room for half an hour and then come back in because he's tired out. Do you know what I'm saying? That's
Totally.
what I see Nirvana as. It's like, open my mouth, this nutcase comes out and just runs around the room, gets so tired, then just comes back in my body. I'm like, thank you, that's chill. I got it out.
Checked it out with Yungblud, yeah, whether he's going to be cool. But given that we just played Breed by Nirvana, is it cool if I just hijack your playlist for a second just to play this? Is it cool if I just stay with Nirvana just for a hot second so we can go back to back and we can play Nirvana? Is that cool?
Yes!
Can we do this?
Absolutely.
Stealing one of your spots on a playlist, but I'm not.
You can have it. You can have it happily. I give that to you.
Thank you, man. Back-to-back Nirvana, Breed, into School. Let's bring it up to date, man, because you met so many good people along the way already in the last year and a half. You're a super, super likable, honest human being, and it's hard to find a reason not to want to spend, a good amount of time kicking it with you, man. You're a good guy, Dom.
Thank you so much.
I feel the same way about the Swimmers boys, and so obviously there's a kinship there.
I love those guys. I remember seeing them for the first time. They were on my radar, like I was watching on my Instagram. I saw they were making rock and roll music relevant on social media, and that was kind of an idea or an ideology of mine. Someone was like, you need to check this band out, Swimmers, and I was like, whoa. And I seen them for the first time at Redden and Leeds, and they had the 12:30 main stage slot. And you know what that's like at a festival, and it's red hot, and you go on stage, and they just tore it up. He was jumping off the drum kit, he had green hair. I was like, what? This is sick. And then we just met each other backstage. We got photos and we're just all texting nowadays. And just great dudes making great music and kind of pushing the rock and roll barrier forward and just being disruptive and just saying to all the 75-year-old dudes in Def Leppard t-shirts at home trying to hold it back, just been like, nah. Do you know what I mean?
Too much time gassing Travis because I feel like every day I spend at least an hour of my life talking to somebody about how sick Travis Scott is. But needless to say, he's the predominant male creative hip-hop superstar artist right now, just in terms of certainly taking nothing away from the Drakes and the Kendricks and the Jays and the M's, and then on the female front talking about the Nickis and the Cardis and the Megs. But Travis, from his own level, is carving his own lane, and I respect it. I really respect it.
Absolutely. That's what kind of inspired me a lot about him. Do you know what I mean? I literally put him in the same categories as the Sex Pistols, as Marilyn Manson, as Lady Gaga, as Bowie. These artists that would, find their own lane and be like, do you know what? I'm just going to build enough of a crowd around it that you're going to have to listen. You know what I mean? I really respect that. And the song we're about to play is I took really heavy influence from the colouring for the weird video that's coming out. I really was inspired by it, and I really kind of was like, whoa, that's amazing. I love Travis, man. He's so punk.
Yungblud, you're out there on the west side of Los Angeles, out in Venice, California, boardwalk town. It suits you for sure, even though I know you're a northern British kid.
Northern lad.
Northern lad through and through. How's the completion of the project going? I mean, we have Weird now, but I mean, where are we at? What's the progress? I mean, you got some time. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to create, but are you?
Absolutely. As I say, the album in its entirety for my head is done. I came back from Australia middle of January, and I just literally went into the hall with my best friends in LA. I'd written some stuff already, but I wanted to record it. with the same crew. The sounds we were using, I wanted to come from the same 5 souls. I'm super inspired right now. I've been writing a lot more, but all I'm doing is trying to beat what I've already got. You know what I mean? The album's there, and we were going to start rolling songs out, and Weird actually wasn't going to be the first song to come out, but I just thought about the way the world is right now. I couldn't believe anything else.
How does a young guy from the north of England find himself in Venice playing Beach Boys songs right now on Apple Music?
I don't know, man. You tell me. You tell me, man. I'm like, what?
It was written.
Yeah,
it was written.
I haven't got a clue, man. I mean, I think
that's an answer that you give when you're at the final stages of your long and productive career in life, and you look back and it all makes, like Joe Walsh says, what was a random selection of incidents is a perfectly constructed novel.
It was just written somewhere.
Golden taking part in your show, and same thing with Travis, same thing with Cal's, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it feels like you found your peoples.
I think that's it. I think when people kind of come to LA for the first time, it can be hard because there's a big volume of artists, there's a big volume of creatives, as all us creatives are. And if people say they don't do this and they're lying, we're all big exaggerators. You know what I mean? And we're all, because it comes from art and it comes from everything that's been out of proportion in terms of creating. But I think it can be hard if you don't find your people. And I've kind of finally, for the first time, kind of found my best mates out here, which is crazy, you know?
Who freaked you out the most? Who have you met that freaked you out the most?
I mean, Robert Smith at the NME Awards freaked me out. My mum was with me. I brought my mum to the NME Awards, which was a bit of a mistake, to be honest.
Why? Did she get on it? Did she get on it?
Oh, she absolutely did. A northern mother getting on it. She was more pissed than me. Do you know what I mean? I think we had to carry her to the car. and that's what I'm saying. Like, I went up to Robert Smith, spoke to him, and then she goes up to him and speaks to him for half an hour. And I'm like, What are you doing, Mum?
Amazing.
You can never hold back a northern woman. I think he spoke to her for half an hour, so that must have been a good sign.
We're going through Yungblud's playlist right now. We're talking about music that's coming. Is the aim to get the album out sooner rather than later?
I'm just kind of trying to think out the box of cool ways I can give the songs to kind of the world. You know what I mean? I think usually when I'm on tour or when I'm on the road or when I'm in different countries, I do like crazy meetups and crazy things to just create as much pandemonium as possible.
And what about collaboration? Because you're a collaborative guy. I mean, have you lined anything up on the album? Have you got some things sitting in the cooker?
I have some ideas for some collaborations on the record, but I think primarily for this one, I wanted it to be kind of like, this is me, because I kind of see this as like kind of like a new era of me and kind of almost like the debut album of the Dom I am now.
When we saw each other not long ago, we saw each other at Coachella, and you and Ashley were hanging out at that point. And you know, I remember me and my family saying afterwards, because we're really fond of Ashley, like she's a good person.
She's the best, man.
And we were saying what a great couple you guys made and how sweet you guys were. And she was super complimentary about you even when I saw her recently. And it must be nice to know that, you know, you can cross paths with other artists and it actually adds value to your life. It's not just adding value to other people's stories.
Absolutely, man. We were like best friends. When you meet another artist who feels and thinks in the same way as you, like, she glowed to me. Like, she literally glowed because she had the same ideology as me. She believes in equality and unity and love. You know what I'm saying? I think to find people who believe and identify with love and acceptance and equality and happiness and the statement that everybody deserves happiness, it kind of makes your brain go, whoa, because you find people who think in a similar way to you. I relate that back to my fan base as well, my family. Like, the reason we are so strong is because of this ideology that you single-handedly make me feel like it's all right to be myself and it's all right to belong on this planet. And I provide that mutual feeling to you.
At Home with Yungblud, an amazing nod to the north of England. Legendary Manchester outfit, of course. The founding members of that band, many of which went on to, well, the remaining which went on to found New Order.
Oh, man.
And the late, great Ian Curtis, of course, who over a very short period of time and a very limited amount of music made a huge impact that continues to this day. What's your Joy Division story?
I mean, I remember just hearing Isolation for the first time in the shop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And he had this like industrial lo-fi using all the wrong notes but made the right notes, and it just hits you in a way that kind of, again, similarly to The Cure when I found him, that made me feel like my anxiety was all right. And he really painted pictures. I think he was almost like painting pictures like a British Kurt Cobain. You know what I mean? He painted these dark pictures that would be like, no one else could ever say that.
Yeah.
And it would make sense, but it just made perfect sense in that way. And I remember watching Control, the film about him, and I was up all night. Do you know what I mean? I remember my guitar player, Adam, was like, have you seen the Joy Division film? I was like, there's a Joy Division film. He was like, yeah. And he showed me this, and it literally was one of the pieces of art that really changed my existence. You know what I mean? I really identified with him there. And he was from where I was from, these small towns, and you can really hear that in the sound, you know?
There's a thread that's been developing through this playlist of artists that make on the surface seemingly aggressive music at times, music that really rattles the cage. And yet a majority of the people that are at the helm of this are people who are very dialed into their sensitivity, into their emotions, and also very open-minded when it came to pushing forward social politics from what was the fringe back then. A lot of conversations that are much louder now. Back then when Kurt Cobain was around and he was really campaigning for women's rights, same thing can be said for a Billy Joe Armstrong, who's somebody who's been a strong advocate for social minority voices to get louder and be a part of the conversation.
And I think that's why they're still so relevant now. Some novelty acts, they're not the greatest hits album. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like...
Although, to be fair, you just played Wake Me Up When September Ends, which is one of the greatest hits Green Day ever released, just FYI.
I mean, it's literally like Wake Me Up When 2020 Ends. You know what I mean? Right now.
I know. But what's interesting to me that as an artist, you really are kind of developing in process. You are finding yourself in real time. As you're starting to identify what you want to say, how you want to present yourself, it's like you're experiencing this for the first time in front of people, which is truly inspiring. Does it feel that way for you too? Who you were on stage I saw at the Viper Room compared to who I see when you're standing in front of cameras and people, being who you are now, it's very different.
It's crazy for you to say that because it kind of puts into perspective everything that I am and I want to be. Like, with my fan base, I want to grow up with them. I want to grow up with people because I'm not going to be the same person I am in 10 years. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And I am completely full of contradictions. And I'm 15 different people at once. What I've realized is everybody is 15 different people at once. Humans have been since the beginning of time. It's almost like we're the first generation to kind of go, it's cool to be 15 different people at once.
Yeah.
Some weeks I'll want to be in a skirt all the time. And then some weeks I'll want to wear Britpop and look like Liam Gallagher. And then some days I'll want to put on hypebeast clothing and be in a hip-hop man. But that's just the parts of my brain. And I felt for so long that they were being censored. Finally, I can be who I am. And I'm just going to grow and grow and grow. And people are going to grow with me. And my mum always used to be like, you can't be called Yungblud at 50. And I was like, well, why not? Because Yungblud will mean something different to me at 50 than it did at 18 and it did at 25 and it did at 34, because maybe Yungblud when I'm 50 will be an idea that I'm looking at from the past. Or
the Beastie Boys are always going to be Beastie Boys.
That's what I'm saying.
In life and in death, they'll always be Beastie Boys.
In 100 years, when someone finds a vinyl in the back of an old basement of the Beastie Boys.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
Goddamn.
Stand-up guy Dom, aka Yungblud. It's great to see you. You're only probably 6 or 7 miles away from where I'm at right now. But, it feels like a lifetime away in the current climate.
It really does. It's very weird.
How are you finding that side of things, staying close to people,
As I say, I think it's a time to tell people you love that you love them as much as you can, I think. And it's kind of good because I'm calling my mum a lot more. I'm calling my family a lot more. And I'm really staying in touch with my fan base. You know what I'm saying? I'm FaceTiming a lot of them and I'm going on live as much as I can, just because in hard times, hope will always prevail. That's just ingrained in humanity. That's just something in our soul around this part of our bodies that we can't really explain. I just think it is a time to kind of reflect. It's weird, I remember doing a Yungblud show, and as an example, even though it's a live show and it wasn't loud, I couldn't literally hear the screams. I saw all the comments coming through. We put a projector at the back, and I see all these things. I feel the noise, even though it's not literal. So the thing I think to remember right now is we are connected. Yes. It sucks that we can't touch each other. It sucks that we can't hug each other. But I think it's a time to express how much we need each other.
Just like that, you can hear it building underneath us. that classic Manny bass line.
Oh.
Waiting for those drums to kick in. Here they come. Here they come, Dom. Pop, pop. Stay
Dude, you
safe
too,
out
man.
there in Venice, man. Thanks for picking some records and letting us pick your brain and your mind.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anytime, man. Thank you so much, Zane.